Aloha! We're here in Honolulu, Hawaii for the Plant Biology 17 Annual Conference. I'm your host, Rishi Masalia, and we're Between the Palms. Welcome back to another episode of Between the Palms. Today I'm joined by Kevin Folta. So Kevin, can you please talk to us about the research that you do at the University of Florida?
So my research is broken down into several areas. We use light to understand how different parts of the spectrum talk to the plant. So we do something called plant whispering to make better quality plant products. We use genomics approaches to understand the genes that contribute to flavors in small fruits. So how do we make better tasting strawberries? And the last thing we do is we do what I think of as throwing monkey wrenches into the machine. We take random molecules and have plants express random peptides, random proteins.
Right.
And once in a while they stick in a process and have an effect on the plant. So we're discovering new vulnerabilities, hopefully, for newer, safer herbicide targets.
Very nice. So you had mentioned strawberries. Are strawberries the only crop that y'all work on?
Well, we work with strawberries, but we also do a lot with, we've worked in the past with everything from grapes to kale to Arabidopsis, which is a wonderful crop.
Yeah.
It sustains an entire industry of scientists. But we do a lot of work with Florida crops, and now we're starting to focus on citrus for citrus screening and lots of other different crops too.
Awesome. So in addition to the amazing research you do down at UF, you are also well known both in plant biology as well as other circles as a great science communicator. Can you give us a little bit about why we should be communicating science as scientists?
Well, the only reason I'm a science communicator is simply that I love to share the science we do, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so much fun to talk about the things that we study and what we find, and the remarkable findings that just are the things that keep me awake at night. And I think, well, it's the stuff I like. Maybe others will like this too. So the idea of taking the science out of the laboratory and into the world is really great. And then you start to find yourself interpreting other science. So helping people understand the questions that really concern them, especially around the areas of food and farming.
So these wouldn't necessarily just be other scientists, be other people who are interested in science or just interested in how the world works and processes, right?
Yeah, it's really interesting how that's come. Whether it's other scientists, whether it's students, whether it's the mom at the grocery store who's trying to pick the best tomato and is worried about pesticides.
Right.
Whether it's physicians who want to know how to talk to their patients about food and farming. Whether it's farmers who are realizing that they need to be better at speaking to the public, or the other one, dietitians. So basically, a lot of different people are really trying to figure out how to share what they know and help people understand food and farming so that it's not as contentious an issue and not nearly as scary as it's started to be.
Right, well said. So as a science communicator myself back in Athens, Georgia, one of the things that I've noticed both at home and then in other universities is that in an academic setting, science communication seems to be either neglected at a university level or maybe frowned upon.
Oh yeah.
Can you address that a little bit?
I've had faculty in my department say to me, and in other departments, say, you know, Folta, you're a pretty good department chair. You know, you do a nice job as a manager. You're a pretty reasonable researcher. You do cool stuff. Why do you waste your time with this science communication stuff? Why do you waste your time having people get angry with you? And why do you put yourself in a perilous situation, even what seems like a perilous situation at times, by exposing yourself to this kind of rhetoric? And it happens all the time. But it's important that we do it for a lot of reasons. I think it's clear right now that we may be taking a slow turn towards a more science-free society in a lot of ways. That you see decisions being made at the federal level to cut science funding in programs. You see careers drying up that once seemed to be very evident for early career scientists and opportunities for early career scientists. And I think that by stepping into the communication side and gently reminding everybody, hey, this is important. This is where our innovation comes from. And tomorrow's applications are today's innovations, and that we need more money and more funds being pipelined into supporting scientists. So we need to be in that communication space. Every single one of us has to be part of our mission.
Well said. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. So you had mentioned that you're getting, that some of your colleagues had mentioned some flack that you're getting based on rhetoric. And I know you're very prominent on Twitter. So when I look at your Twitter feed, I see a lot of like ad hominem attacks on you personally. So as a young science communicator, one of the questions I've always wanted to ask you is, how do you actually address those comments, and how do you deal with that? How do you move forward doing what you do?
Yeah, you know, and the big thing is to remember that you can't take it personally.
Right.
They don't hate you, they hate your ideas. And so, you know, and what's great is that I can find people who really don't like me, and I've run into them in real life. We've met at different places or whatever.
Right.
And if I'm in their town, I'll take them for lunch, or I'll you know, go buy a pizza and a beer.
Right.
A lot of times I can change their mind. But it's most of the time it's nice just because you show them that there's a human being attached to that Twitter handle.
Right.
And that username is somebody with a beating heart and a family and a situation. And I think that helps a bit.
Okay, just to humanize?
Just to humanize with specific people, but at the same time, the easy answer is block, ignore, mute. You know, just do those things that would shut people off and shut it down, and then it's out of your hair.
Right.
But that's the best advice for 2000. It's very 2015. Okay. Nowadays, the best thing to do is to take a hateful message and retweet it, or take a screenshot of it and put it back out and say, this is what we go through to communicate the truth.
Okay.
And the reason is, what changed, right?
Right, yeah.
2 years ago, we didn't have the nerd shield. Now we have the nerd shield. Okay, so all the science marches and things and all of this, it's drawn people in who aren't scientists but who are science enthusiasts, and people who are on fire about protecting science and fighting for science and thinking about science. And they have our back.
Yeah.
And between the skeptics and the other groups out there that really realize that science is under assault, they're stepping in. Right. And so what's great about this now is that if I put out, well, look at what I just found, then everybody else will share that.
Yeah.
And they'll remind everybody that when we're talking about the truth at the public interface, it frequently can be a perilous situation. But it's an important one, and important that more people step in. Right. The longer we don't do it, the more the silence builds. Yeah. Because that's what they want. They want us to be quiet. Yeah. So instead of blocking, muting, turn up the volume. Nice.
So then, as a follow-up to that, in addition to that, would getting more scientists active on platforms like Twitter or Facebook or other like Instagram, other social media platforms, or just having their voice out there, writing more blogs or doing podcasts?
Oh gosh.
Will that help? That seems like it'll help. Yeah.
It's insanely simple.
Yeah.
If you took everybody who's at this conference and each one of them put 10 minutes a week into generating content, can you imagine the massive materials that would just be overwhelming, especially in areas of scientific controversy? Yeah. It would be so wonderful if everybody was in the space. What you find is exactly the opposite. You find the people who want to squelch science really rely on what we call the spiral of silence. That once a few scientists say, I can't take this anymore, I don't want to participate with these maniacs. Once we decide to back down, then everybody. It seems like they've won, right? It seems like they've won, and then no one else wants to step into that discussion. Right. It's important if all of us do it, and we have each other's backs. Right. We evoke the nerd shield.
Yes. I love that phrase.
So, but it's totally true. It's like an immune system. I mean, someone does something wrong and they swoop in and fix it. Right. And they know the science better than, as well as the scientists do, especially in areas like genetic engineering or vaccines or climate. They come in and talk about it, and it's really effective. Nice.
So one of the questions I've always had as a science communicator is when I'm on Twitter or when I'm writing blogs for some of the groups I'm in, we're always concerned with, okay, we're putting content out there and we advertise it on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, but we're only reaching people of like minds, and we're kind of, being encompassed in our own echo chamber. So do you have ways in which you can break out from those echo chambers?
Oh, absolutely. This is the most important thing for us to do. Right. It's great for us to talk to each other, no question, but we have to be stepping out of our tribes. Yeah. And we know we're part of them. We're part of a scientist tribe. How do we start to speak to the farmers and the farmers who have questions for us and want a trusted source? How do we speak to the dietitians who want a trusted source of information? How do we speak to the other groups like the mom bloggers? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
There are so many different groups out there that want to know a scientist. Here we are.
Here we are. So we just have to go out there and meet those people.
We have to go to their tribes and become trusted. and say, you know, I'm just reading what you put here about BHT in products and food products, and I understand why you'd be concerned about something that sounds so horrible as, you know, butyrated hydroxytoluene or toluene. But here's what we know from science. Here's what we know about food additives. Here's how we know that there's no evidence of harm at these concentrations used. And that kind of information about an ingredient that might be, say, a baby food, and really have moms nervous, really can make them feel much better because we can talk to them about what it really is and what it isn't.
So if you were talking to younger scientists who are interested in getting involved in science communication, do you have any tips or tricks or things that you've learned over the years that might be beneficial to them when they're starting out?
Yes.
Okay.
Patience.
That one I have learned as well. Yes.
So it's patience, not just with the people you would deal with or things like that, but waiting for it to blow up. Meaning waiting to grab a toehold and develop a following and develop. But it's a slow process, and you have to generate content on a weekly basis.
That's what I've heard.
It has to be consistent.
Yep.
You have to have that blog every Saturday, that podcast every Saturday.
Right. Because you do your podcast what day?
Every Saturday morning it comes out, whether I like it or not.
Episode 88, I think, you just dropped.
I think so, yeah. And I'm up to probably 96 that are in the can.
In the queue?
So,
okay.
Yeah, so everything's good there. So I don't know which one I'm on. But the idea is that if my podcast doesn't go up on Saturday, I get emails saying, "Where's the podcast?"
Oh, interesting.
You know, I take my long walk.
That's how the following.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's great, and people say, you know, that I use that one when I walk my dog on Saturday afternoon, and if I don't have it, you know, the dog doesn't get walked, you know. So we're making lives better for dogs too. But so the early thing is be consistent, produce quality work. Team up with a scientist, either someone at your university or maybe someone who's already established in science communication, to edit your work and work with you in your work. And I work with dozens of people editing their blogs or their work. Happy to do that. Yeah. It's what we need to do. The more people who do it, the less I have to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is awesome. Yeah. So that's really important. And the last thing is just continue to develop, and what you find is that it does start to take hold. You've seen folks like Yvette D'Entremont, who was SciBabe. Yep. Her efforts started very small, and now she's publishing articles that are getting jillions of downloads in really great magazines and really high-powered venues. Coven Synapathy is getting great exposure. You know, as people like, you know, the internet celebrities who've kind of waned in interest over the years, the science communicators have gone through the roof. You know, the folks like Cara Santa Maria and the others like her, just grabbing a tremendous toehold. Right. But
you're saying, though, it does take patience, so you have to stick in there, young science communicators. I'm in the same boat as you. I will keep doing science communication.
But get folks like me to retweet what you do or to share your work. Yeah. And that's a big part of it. If we can be disseminating the quality work done by other people in the field, then it really makes it helps the exposure of you to more people. And that's a really great thing that we didn't have a few years ago. Yeah. We had to do it the hard way. Now you can get plugged into the network, and if you share your good work with 1,000 people and it gets shared 1,000 times, you've now reached 1 million people. I mean, how cool is that? For free.
It's for free, That's amazing. So one of the questions I was going to ask is, at a university setting, something I've experienced is that there's not a lot of training for undergraduates or graduate students on how to actually do science communication. There are a couple of courses here and there, but there's nothing as rigorous that allows you to have this whole editing process to train over time. One of the organizations that I helped start, at University of Georgia, kind of helps do this. But I was wondering if that's something that you've noticed, like training for graduate students.
Yeah, it's something that we're trying to do more and more of, and I think the reason that it's so hard to find is because it didn't really exist. What we've learned from boots on the ground. Yeah, we've learned by participating in the forums and going to the panels and being part of a scientific discussion and learning the right way and wrong way to do it, and going, gosh, I wish I had that one back. Yeah. Making the mistakes. I've done it for years. I made mistakes before I learned the correct way to engage the public. So I think that right now I could write the book on it, but and still we'd have to revise it in a year.
Yeah, well, it also changed so quickly,
and the internet's changing, and the way in which, when I talked about trolls earlier, the way we deal with abrasive personalities is completely flipped in the last couple of years. Yeah. And
it might flip again in a few more years.
The strategy's always changing. Yeah. And that's the beauty of this, is that human beings are complex messes. And especially when you put thousands of them together through an electronic media, it's the weirdest kind of sausage, social sausage you've ever seen. But the beauty of that is that we always are watching and always adjusting. And what's cool is, you know, you can sit in the lab all day and have great stuff ooze out of the test tube. But now it's how that ooze meets the social front that is something we have to think about and concern ourselves with and position ourselves with to really do it best.
Thank you again, Kevin, so much for being on this episode of Between the Palms here at ASPB 2017. Until next time.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you.